let's unpack this week's movements with Grant Nader, Senior Portfolio Manager at Bengula Global Fund Managers. Grant, thank you for joining us. The Rand broke through the 19 Rand mark yesterday. Why and what can we expect from the Rand?
Good evening. Well, it has really been a very crazy week, a wild week. The Rand started last week, finished last week at around 1875, went as high as 1915 yesterday, back to the 1880 region today. So it really has been a wild ride. I think it's been driven largely by what's happening globally and not a lot of what's going on in SA. A lot of the Fed, the overseas data coming out of the US Fed, the minutes saying they're going to keep rates higher for longer to battle inflation. And that led to a knee-jerk sell-off in bond yields. Global markets took a knock yesterday quite significantly, the Rand with it. But to be honest, we've seen a good recovery today. We've seen some of the numbers out of the economic data out of the US came in better than expected with regard to rates. And it actually, we're in a situation where bad news is good news and good news is bad news. So the poorer economic data today was favorable to rates, favorable to the Rand. So we're ending the week more or less where we started. So not a bad outcome after a very volatile period.
So, Grant, like you said, there was a lot of talk about the US Federal Reserve's meeting minutes in which they indicated that interest rate hikes are probable. Like you said, our local market and global markets had quite a dip yesterday. Our local market did end strong today. What was the reasoning for that?
Yeah, I think there was certainly some relief coming into the market. This trajectory of rate hikes really took a back step as we saw some really better data late afternoon out of the US, and that supported a strong rally into the late afternoon in our market. And I think we've seen for the past month now sort of buyers coming in where we see value and where we see opportunity. We saw that again, and the market was led by resources and precious metals as well, and diversified miners who have generally had a tough time of it of late.
So, Grant, just a quick one on the interest rates. What do you see about our interest rates? Possible announcement, possible hike again this month if we see what the Fed is saying?
Yes, unfortunately, I think we're definitely going to see another hike, if not two, over the next couple of months. We saw inflation expectations early on in this week creeping up over the next year or two, and that is very dangerous. That is something the South African Reserve Bank definitely wants to put a lid on. So we can definitely expect further hikes here and overseas as well.
So, Grant, let's quickly talk about what happened today in the movements. I saw Telecom share price decrease by over 10% somewhere in the afternoon, but it ended the day at a decrease of over 6%. What do you think happened there?
So if you recall, just recently, Telecom came up with quite a poor set of numbers with some big write-downs of their assets. And then shortly after, they had a big sell-off. And then there was a consortium led by the former CEO that came in with the PIC's backing, with a view to making a bid to take out a big share in Telecom. That cautionary of that announcement of that deal has been withdrawn. The deal's off the table as the board has decided that they have a better path to follow. And so that's what caused this big shakeout, this big volatility in Telecom, which at one stage was down, as you say, nearly 10% on the day. It finished down about 6% on the day.
So, Grant, let's end this week on a high note. Who are some of the winners this week?
Well, for those who are unfortunately enough to hold transaction capital, that was the winner on the week, up 12%. Out of the slightly bigger names, we saw Woolworths, Remgro, Sanlam, Mondi. They all finished up between 2 to 3%. And we saw generally some good buying in some of the South African-focused companies, which I think is a positive in terms of the outlook over the next 6 to 12 months, as we're starting to see some easing in the load shedding burden and maybe some light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you so much for your time tonight, Grant. That was Grant Nader, Senior Portfolio Manager at Bengula Global Fund Managers.